This is huge news. An extremely crucial major bridge in Crimean Peninsula has been targeted, and now the entire logistics of Russians between Crimean Peninsula and the south of occupied Ukraine is temporarily or maybe permanently disabled. And at the same time, if you remember for the last couple of episodes, we've been talking about Russian offensive in the east. Well, apparently, in less than 48 hours, it completely exhausted itself. But more about all this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's go straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. So, Russian soldiers in Luhansk region, they said that the army of Ukraine started developing biological locusts. Correct me if I pronounced it incorrectly. And long story short, these insects, they are targeting and humiliating the civilians of Luhansk region. And I mean, to be honest, they did not mention what is the purpose of these battle locusts. Maybe these are just regular ones which attack the crops and eat all the vegetables, leaving famine behind. Or maybe these are genetically modified bio-robots/rockets, locusts, which are supposed to target and eliminate people. They did not specify this, because probably the entire news is just ridiculous fake. And so pretty much yes, let me know in the comments, what do you think is the purpose of those insects? But if you think that this is just overall, just to say the least, not true and these are just one big lie, can you please like this video and subscribe to my channel to see how many of us do not believe Russian propaganda. And at the same time, you can also follow me on Instagram. I will check some of you guys' profiles and follow some of you back. The link is down below. Alright, and now just literally a couple of words about the Western military support to Ukraine. Then we'll move to the east and talk about Russian offensive dying in less than 48 hours before switching to the south and talking about this crucial bridge being attacked. And first of all, right here you can see that Ukrainians are already using self-propelled systems called Caesar, which were pledged by Denmark. Then we have some very good news from the US, where the Biden administration is being pushed towards sending ATACMS missiles to Ukraine, with the range of approximately 190 miles or 300 kilometers. And speaking about the aerial vehicles, Ukrainian volunteers have transferred 3 reconnaissance drones Shark, which are produced also by Ukrainians, and these are extremely technologically advanced drones. And ultimately, different European countries, they still provide humanitarian support to the people of Kherson region, which were affected by the explosion on Kakhovka Dam. And for example, country of Croatia has pledged 33 pallets with such humanitarian support. Alright, and now as promised, let's talk about the situation in the east of Ukraine. But first of all, we just have to make a stop in Belarus, where a Russian helicopter Mi-24 has suffered, as they called it, hard landing. It does not look like a landing to me, it just looks like a typical crash. Then we go to the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, where recently in one of residential buildings there has been a very loud noise, but as for now, according to the preliminary investigation, this was the result of a gas explosion. Next we go to the east of Ukraine, where according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians continue to engage in positional fighting along Kupiansk-Svatovo front line. Positional fighting means that they did not advance anywhere, and at the same time Ukrainians already started launching their counter-offensive in the areas around Crimean. So as you can see, pretty much in less than 48 hours Russians lost all their tactical advantage, and now it is Ukrainians trying to take back territories. And just for the reference, this is how much territory Russians were able to capture in 48 hours to the south of Crimea. You probably not seeing it, so I have to zoom it in, and so right here, this is all the territory they captured in 2 days. And just as I mentioned, it is now Ukrainians who are performing the counteroffensive, such as for example they are once again effectively using their drones to destroy the Russian military equipment, as you can see from this video. And as always, unfortunately YouTube will not allow me to show the entire of it, that is why the full version is on my Patreon, the link is down below. And just overall, Ukrainians in the last 24 hours alone were able to destroy 3 control points of Russians, 1 missile system, 3 concentration of Russian forces, 13 artillery units, and 2 electronic warfare equipment. But okay, and now let's briefly talk about the situation in the south, before we can switch our attention to this crucial bridge in Crimea being destroyed, or at least targeted, quote unquote. And first of all, we just have to make a stop in Kryvyi Rog, because unfortunately Russians once again attacked the residential area in this city. Then we move a little bit to the south to Kherson, where unfortunately Russian missiles landed inside the city as well. And just overall, Ukrainians were able to intercept 3 out of 4 Russian drones in the last 24 hours. But there was a response by Ukrainians, such as for example in the Zaporozhye region, they are able to destroy a Russian self-propelled system called Msta-S, and also they're able to destroy a long-range mining system called Zemlyedelие. And in addition to that, Ukrainians were able to destroy a pretty big Russian base, which is located in Vasilievka on the left side of Dnipro River. And just overall, according to the representative of Ukrainian Defense Forces Valery Shersheny, Ukrainian forces were able to advance approximately summarized up to 1 kilometer across Tavria front line, and their offensive continues in the directions of Melitopol and Berdyansk. And ultimately, we even have this video where Ukrainians were able to approach the Russian positions from behind, go inside their trenches and backstab them, eliminating a dozen of Russian soldiers. For obvious reasons, YouTube does not allow me to show the consequences, that is why the full version is always also on my Patreon. The link is down below. Right, but obviously the most important event that happened recently is that Ukrainians were able to attack an extremely important Russian bridge in Chonhar, which connects Crimean Peninsula with the rest of occupied Ukraine. And according to the Russian collaborators in this region, the attack was performed using Western extended range missiles called Storm Shadow. And as you can see from this map, this is the approximate location of this bridge, which to be honest consists of 3 of them. One is the railway bridge, another one is the old car bridge, and the next one, which was attacked, is the more modern car bridge. It has also been mentioned that the railway bridge has also been severely damaged as a result of this attack, which pretty much disrupts the logistics of Russians. It just disrupts it extremely much. Because, I mean, just take a look at this map. The white lines, they represent the major railways, and the Chonhar bridge is located right here. And so, as you can see, without a doubt, this was the shortest way for Russians to bring their military equipment and reinforcements from Crimea to Kherson, which is now, at least temporarily, is no longer available. Instead, Russians will now have to make a big detour by railroad, which goes all the way like this, or if they want to bring less equipment, because I mean, transporting by railway allows to transport a lot of equipment at once, but if they just want to bring them by just regular car roads, they still have to go this way and then only go to the east. And at the same time, and probably this is the most important thing, it is just that because of just this detour, Russians will have to get closer to the territory which was already controlled by Ukrainians, which basically means that now more and more their military equipment will be in range for Ukrainian artillery and missiles. And I mean, yes, Ukrainians were already able to attack this bridge, which means that the range of missiles is far more than they need. They potentially, if they want, can even attack the Crimean Bridge, but I mean, if the military targets of the enemy are hundreds of kilometers closer to you, obviously it increases the accuracy a lot. For this reason, even though the bridges in Chonhar are still kinda standing, but we all remember the situation with Antonovsky Bridge. It was constantly attacked by Ukrainians until it became completely destroyed, and this bridge was much more reinforced than the ones in Chonhar. So pretty much yes, anyways, Russians will need to take this detour at least temporarily while the bridge is being repaired, even if it's gonna be repaired at all. And this definitely, severely disrupts the logistics in the south, because now more and more of Russian military equipment is in range for precise Ukrainian artillery attacks, And just in general, Russians are no longer able to, subtly, in the shadows, send reinforcements to Melitopol or into Zaporozhye front lines. And one of the most ridiculous responses from the Russian authorities came to us from Viktor Sobolev, who said that because Ukrainians destroyed these bridges in Crimea, far from any civilization, Russians now need to completely erase from the face of earth Kiev and all the decision-making centers. I mean, Russians are attacking civilian objects pretty much daily, and what, Ukrainians then should erase Kremlin or Putin or anyone of his inner circle? I'm not saying it's not an option, but I'm just saying that comparison of targets and the appropriate responses, And his statement is mainly based on the previous statement by the Minister of Defense of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, who claimed that as soon as Ukraine uses Western Storm Shadow missiles, that's it. Russia should respond, because this will be crossing the red line. And so, as a result, what do we have? Ukrainians, most likely they did use this Storm Shadow missile, they do not deny it, but there's no response by Russians. Once again, these were just empty threats. Surprise, surprise. And just in general, here is a pretty interesting fact. A lot of major Ukrainian counteroffensive in the past was beginning with Ukrainians destroying, guess what? Bridges. And so this is exactly what we have right now. One of the biggest bridges of Russians between Crimea and Kherson has been targeted. Maybe not yet destroyed, but definitely is unusable. So we might see some potential Ukrainian progress very soon. I really hope so. And if you don't want to miss it, as soon as it happens, just please consider subscribing to my channel. It only takes literally one click. The absolutely best way to support my work is through my Patreon. You can also become my channel member or simply use the PayPal link. Everything can be found to the right and down below. Guys, be careful, there are scammers in the comments pretending to be me and asking to talk to you. It is not me. Thank you so much for your attention and see you tomorrow.